Hi and welcome back to my workshop. I'm Tony, and as you know, I'm building another Armortek 1:6 scale full metal tank, and this time it is the Hetzer or the Jagdpanzer 38. And if you've been following me, we left off last time basically me pondering, if you like, on where to start and what to start next on the build. I've subsequently spent a lot of time trying to understand the best way to do this, and I think I've come up with a plan. And today I'm going to put in or install both sides of the top hull. I've gone ahead and put one on already just to see how that went, and it's reasonably straightforward. A little bit fiddly, but I'll show you how I do that, how I got around that. And then we're going to test fit some items like the front glacier, the roof, just to make sure it's all fitting as it should. But I will not install the glacier plate at this stage, because I want to build and assemble the slew mechanism for the gun on the back of the plate, because I'm pretty sure it's going to be really awkward if I install the glacier plate and then try and work underneath it with all the angles and everything else. So I'm fairly confident that if I install all the parts onto the glacier plate ahead of installing onto the tank, that will make my life a little bit easier, but you know, we'll see. So in a moment I will reposition the camera, and we'll go ahead and we'll install the other side of the top hull. So ahead of installing this side armor plate to the top of the hull, there's a couple of brackets that need to be installed, two on the top actually and one on the angle here. And these are the brackets here, and the way to put these on is you put the shorter end, I don't know if you can see that in the camera, but the shorter end here goes to the tank, and the wider end, if you like, the thicker end, will be what the roof is supported by. So and obviously these fit on the inside of the tank, and we're just going to load up our fixings, thread locker. Now I've done some rudimentary tests on the fitting of this, and I'm fairly confident that as long as I fit this on its lowest point, so I'm going to turn this around, offer the fixing in from the back, use my driver there just to support that. So the smaller or the shorter of the ends goes on first, and just pop a nut onto that. We won't tighten it up just yet. That's that. The next one. I understand from some of the comments about this particular kit on the forum that the top roof is a bit tricky, so you've got to keep it fairly loose, so I understand, but at the same time I'm also going to just continually test fit parts. So I've unpacked the roof section. I mean, there's like there's so many doors to go on that, so many hinges. That's a session in its own right, that I think. Just keeping this as low down as possible. That's how I found when I test fitted, well, like really crudely test fitted the roof to the other side. Having it in the lower position is definitely, I think, the way it should be. So I'm quite happy to tighten that up. It doesn't look right at the moment because of the angles and everything else, but by the time you turn that, it's right. So if you're doing one of these and you feel that that's not right, it is, because by the time you rotate that round so this angle's right, the roof sits on here fairly square. So that's that. One more of those to put on. As you see, that's not straight. Little bit of a little bit of encouragement. Now we'll tighten that up. I'm doing it now because I think it's all going to be awkward to undo this and put thread locker on at the later stage, and if I do need to slacken them off, as we've seen previously, I can get the old hot air gun on it again. to slacken them off enough to be able to adjust it. But we'll see. I think there's enough flex in these panels anyway to allow us to do that. It's quite handy using the driver just to prop it into position. I think I'm already thinking about stages and painting and everything else. I'm pretty sure that I'm going to end up painting this without the roof on and painting the roof completely separate, but we'll see. This is what happens when you're into one of these builds. You continually think forward, and I think that's a healthy thing to do, because you can always change your mind, but it's good to have a plan, and it's also good to think ahead. Again, lessons learnt really on the previous session, where, as you saw, I had to take the whole thing apart. I do think though Armortek could note that on the instructions to say, look, if you're going to be installing the motors, do not install these at this stage, hold off, kind of thing. I mean, I'm not criticising Armortek, I would never do that, because I think they're an amazing company, and I just love their kits. But I think the instructions, just if they're on there and I missed them on the front pages or whatever, apologies, but I just think a note on the instructions to say, hold off installing the drive case mounts until such time you've installed the motors. Right, so now we're going to go and install this bracket here. Now it can only go on one way, because obviously the spacing of the fixings. So this only goes on one way. Same sort of thing, fixing in from the rear. Awkward angles, all these things. I don't know how Armortek managed to work this all out, but it's pretty impressive. So that goes, that's right, that goes on there. Just hang that for now. A lot of fixings in this part of the build. We are, I don't know if you notice, I've got my fleece on today because my heater's packed up, but it has turned really cold here in the UK, which I guess is how it should be for this time of year. I'm not moaning at all, because I keep saying it's perfect tank building weather. So I'm just going to allow that to slide down into its, like, the lowest position. I think that's fine for now, and then we'll align that when it comes to, and I'm not going to do these up too tight. I want to be able to move that bracket. That's that. Right, now I'll I'll install this on the side of the tank now, but I'm going to have to reposition the camera so you can see, you get a better view of it. Right, so I've rotated this around. We've got the plate that can only go on one way, and it's pretty much in kind of that kind of position, but it is awkward to say the least, because you've got to hold this, you've got to get the fixings underneath, really awkward little angles here to be able to get a nut in position. So what I'm going to do is I'm using my grips to hold this into position. I mean, this isn't that easy either, but it's the way I've come up with it. So we're just that position there, and I'm going to just spin this around. Hope you're getting this on the camera. pop that into that position. Try and line this up with the holes in the lugs behind. That's more or less it. And get another clamp. It just about fits. Just picks up the lug. So that's it. Kind of holds it in position. I can see the holes here. And then now we're set. We can actually start installing these fixings. So load up your fixing onto your tool, onto your driver. A little bit of thread locker on it. Just gonna move that a little bit so I can see where the nut is. I've got a nut ready, got a pair of long nose pliers. I'm going to pop the first one in there, like so. Hold the nut in position behind with the pliers. It's so awkward. Let's go with that one. That's got it. Not doing it up tight, just getting it on. So it's so tricky with the angles and everything else, but it's obviously doable. Can't think of any other way of doing this actually. Pop that one in there. Get the nut behind it. There we go, that's in, that's caught it. Do these two front ones now. You can really start to see the shape of it come together and appreciate the design of this brilliant little kit. That's got it. I'll tighten all these up in a moment. Last one. No, it's not the last one this end. One more after this. But what we can do once I've got this one on, I can take the clamps off. That's got it. The clamps are only there to stop it from sliding around. They're like another pair of hands, really helpful hands. So you can see that a lot of movement still on that. We'll tighten a few of these up, just a tad. All I want to do is make sure that I don't have to, if you tighten them up too much and the holes don't align, it becomes a bit of a nightmare. So we'll get all the fixings in and then we'll go around and tighten everything up. My point made perfectly there, just had to shift that down. Just out of camera, sorry. Right. Just going to make sure that these holes all line up, and they do. Good. So I'll tighten these up now. Can't help thinking that I need to bend this up a bit. We'll see once we test fit the roof. I'm just tightening these up now. One more to do, and then we'll spin it round and put the other two on. So just two more to go in here. A couple more fixings. You can really start seeing it, can't you? Sort of really intricate design of the angles, the clever design. Designed to ricochet small rounds or bounce small rounds off the side. Super awkward. Again, just because I'm filming it, it just makes it a little bit awkward, because I want you guys to try and see it. There we go, I called it now. And that's that one in. Last one. Put the glacier plate on in a minute. Well, I'll offer it up to it, but I won't install it, just to show you. That's the last one of those in. So it feels like it needs to bend down, but we'll see. So the glacier plate, this huge big piece of thick aluminium, yeah, just very thick. And that slides in there like that, and it's supposed to be tight, so obviously that goes right, so that'll fix on there like that. And then we'll have to bend this out, so there's definitely a bit of bending required. I could see that, but yeah, I'm fairly happy with that. I can see it's working fairly well. Yeah. So next thing, I'm going to start building up the back of this, and then probably once I've got all the parts on the back of this, we'll go ahead and install the glacier plate. Right, just before I do the glacier plate work, I want to test fit the roof. And this is the roof, which is a beautifully machined piece of steel, CNC cut and folded. And it goes in roughly that position there. Now there is a bracket to go on the back, which I haven't installed yet, but this is just about just seeing if this fits. Kind of does. And the other thing I want to make sure is that there's a recess in the top of, let me show you this on the camera, there's a recess along this edge here, which this front edge of the roof sits in. So I'm just going to see if that will slide into that, and it does. So actually, as far as alignment's concerned, I'm pretty happy with that. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to be doing some weld marks or welding along here, dummy welding all along here and everything else. or perhaps not here, because this is where I'm going to have to remove this to get access to the electronics, but certainly on this angle here along the front. Yeah, so there is a bit around, so I'm happy with that. So what I'll do now I'm happy with that, I'll pack this away, take the glacier plate off, pop this out, and pop that away out of harm's way for the time being. And now we crack on with the glacier plate. Right, so I've got all the parts I need to do the glacier plate. And actually looking at the instructions, it does say that some of these parts need the glacier plate would have to be removed to install. So I've got that right. And it also tells you that in order to install the motors, obviously this would have to come out as well. So I know I've said it a few times already, if you are going to buy one of these Hetzer kits, make sure you buy the motion pack ahead as well. The option, the other smoke and everything else can come at a later stage. It's just getting those drive motors is essential. So anyway, let's get cracking. I'm going to start off with just some little detail parts up here, which is sort of just eyelet hooks, if you like. And they come with these sort of decorative flanges. I've seen these before, but they're normally in brass. And there's 3, 1, 2, 3. And all these are just super glued into position. So I'm going to just put the glue inside, drop them into the holes. The glue would come out, of course. And I'm going to position these over the hole. Like so. And then try and pop that's a little bit awkward because the hole's not big enough, but there we go. Press that down into position. And that'll go off. And we have the same. I'll do this time, I will put them in here instead to start with. These are the little fiddly parts. Again, just pressing that down into position. And that glue to go off. I'll have to put a bit more on that. And the last one. And that's it, they're all pretty much the same depth. And that's those 3 in there, nice and easy. I think what we'll do now is we'll work ourselves down into the sort of the driver's viewpoint here, and you've got a housing that bolts onto that, but you've also got some clear plastic. I mean, this is going to be, it's going to be hard to see these on this tank with it being shielded, but anyway, these are designed to hopefully go in there. Make sure I've got them the right way around. I think I have. No, it's that way around, I think. So they go in like that, and then this goes over the top of that. Yeah, so that'll be about right. And of course, when that's at its angle, that'll be about right. Yes. So we'll get those in to position. Just a little bit of glue on here. This is just regular super glue. And the other one. That just pops in there like so. And just going to go and get the fixings for this now. Let that go off, and then we can bolt that shield into place. Right, now these have gone off, we can bolt this into place. So I've got the M3 16mm caps, which will go in from the back of the main plate, like so. And they go into the threaded element of that. So let's get the right driver. That's that one. Just locate it. There we go. Tighten that up from the back. I'm not going to put any thread locker on this. It's just a nice aluminium thread, and these are doing up nice and tight. So that's that. Now the next thing is the lamp. Now, so in the kit, Armortek sends you quite a nice detailed lamp. Two parts. I think it's the convoy light, which sits, I believe, in this position here, and you have this little stand that winds in there like so. Well, it's supposed to, and we'll see if it does. Yeah, it does. And then that bolts through to a little bracket, which is this thing here, and there's a fixing that goes in underneath it, like so. However, Armortek do an alternative to this, which is the same thing. Maybe you can see this. I'll zoom the camera in actually. Let me just do this for you. Sorry, my camera skills are shocking. So if you look at this compared to this, and I'll see if I can show the detail, that's the one that comes with the kit, and this is the upgrade from Armortek, and it's lovely. It's just got a trim around the edge here to make it look like it's pressed steel. It's got a marking on here, and the base, if we compare the bases, I'll just unspin that. Don't get me wrong, this is perfectly adequate. If we look at the two bases, the detail between the two, put them on my hand like that, the detail between the two is remarkable. It actually looks so well made. So Armortek, a guy called Dave owns Armortek. He makes amazing things for upgrades for these tanks and all things 1:6 scale. And just in awe of what he does. So if you are going to get into Armortek tanks, Armortek is a great company to also align yourself with, because they come up with these amazing upgrades. So I'm going to park up the Armortek piece of kit, because I'm not going to use that. Not sure what I'm going to do with that, but I won't use that. I'm going to park that up out of the way, and I'm going to use, in this kit, I'm going to use the Armortek one. So in this, just need to make sure that that hole passes through there, and it does. And this is going to have to be a glue job. There's no other way of fixing that, I don't think. So we use the fixings that come with the with the kit, a couple of nuts and a couple of 16mm M2.5 fixings or cap fixings to put this into place, and then we'll glue this into position. So first things first, I'm going to glue this to this. Make sure I've got it the right way around. I think that is the right way around. Pretty sure it is. Yeah. Get some glue. And what I'll do is I'll glue this together, and while we're waiting for that to set, we'll install the bracket. Just push that in as firm as possible, make sure it's straight, like so. These little details just make the difference when the model's finished. So we'll pop that there out of the way, and then we'll put this bracket into position, and it goes like that, presents itself forward, I believe, so the light sits on that. So we've got two, what I did have rolled off my bench. I'll get another one of those. Okay, found it. So these just pass through the back of the plate. Just going to leave those presented through like that, and we're going to position the bracket like so. And I've got a couple of little 2.5 nuts, and these will have to be thread locked. A little bit fiddly. That's one on. And that's two on. Right, brilliant. Now, let's see if we can get. No, we can't, so we'll have to go in from the back. Just tighten those up. Easily enjoyable parts of the build. These parts, very much enjoy these parts. Just get this surplus off of that. That's that. I'm not going to put it in just yet, but that basically goes in position like that. Now that can actually stay off for the time being, because I don't need to worry about that. I can just glue that into position at some point. I might even put a spring washer around the back of that to clip it into position and maybe be able to rotate it. I don't know. We'll work that at a later stage. The only other thing is we have one of these, I believe these lifting lugs here, and that's obviously needs a bit of work on the back of that. So I'm just going to get some sandpaper and coarse metal sandpaper I've got set up on my bench, and that sits in there, which I believe it's one of the crane lugs, and that just has a 6mm button fixing, or butt head fixing, sorry. And that should go through there, and it does. Right, so I'm just going to pop, I will put some thread locker on this. Just getting all these parts put onto the Glacis front plate while it's off the tank, so I just think it's going to be easier to work with. And that's that on. So that is that all these little parts are on. Very, very simple. Now the next thing we're doing, or look at, is going to be doing the main gun assembly, but just the slew mechanism, which is this beautifully made parts here. Now these will have to be cleaned up, obviously, ahead, because some of these need to be glued. We have bearings and everything else to go inside them, so we'll clean these up and then we'll get them installed on well, we'll start the installation process. Right, so we're now going to work on the gun slew mechanism, and this is a plate that this obviously gets fixed to and will rotate around. This gets fixed back to the back side of the Glacis plate, and then this main sort of gun support will then rock, if you like, in this kind of effect here within that bracket. So first thing we need to do is put the bearing inside this. I've cleaned everything up, and I'm going to get the glue out, just apply as always. It's quite cold in here, so it's really struggling to run out. There we go. Just using a nozzle as always to. Now with this one, there's a grub screw that locks it into place as well, so we don't need to worry too much. And that's that, pressed home. So that's that one. There's another one to go in here. We'll do that now while we can. Just rotating the piece around and just using that nozzle to spread that around. Oops. Try and put that in as square as possible, and that's gone in nice. Just going to tap that. I know people sort of go mad when I bang these bearings home with I'm not putting a lot of weight behind it, and yeah, they are very robust. So that's now set, so we can now pass the this, if you like, the rotational bush, if you like, this beautifully little engineered detail here, and that passes through the shorter end, passes through the bearing like so. And just going to put a tiny little bit of thread locker on this. Now there's a securing piece here, and it's got a slightly wider opening as counterboard, if you like, on one side. That's the side that you present to the thread, because that will then wind all the way in and lock that into position. And that's it there, spinning around nicely. So that's that piece done. That will obviously eventually go into this. In fact, I'll probably do that now, because once the gun mount is in place, it's going to be difficult to get a nut on that. So that's that. So that goes through into that. Wait a minute, sec. I'm just double checking that is right. It is. Not sure that's why that's not wanting to go through there. There we go. It's in there now, and that simply just gets locked into place with a 6mm nut. The only thing I actually forgot to do was to wind that grub screw in to lock that bearing in place. So that's that, which is this one here. And then just going to put a tiny little bit of thread locker on that. Don't want anything to get onto the bearing. I'm just going to wind that in. It's an M6 nut. So that's it doing its thing. So we'll go on now and we'll install the main gun mount. Right, so before I go ahead and install the main gun mount into its slew holder, I thought there's an opportunity to get the bush into this while I can. So just position that in. That just needs to be excuse the noise. I'm just going to use a bit of timber to encourage that. While it's flat on the surface, this is the only time to do this. I just want to make sure that that is in as far as it can go. It looks like it is. And then, I mean, obviously this will go on, this goes onto it. This is what the, I don't know what the German is for this, sorry, but I believe they refer to this as the pig snout, because it replicates. It does look very much like a pig snout. So this obviously is the main, this will bolt onto the glacier plate, and then this will then position itself just like that. So I just want to make sure that it all kind of works as it should do. So that'll be going up and down, side to side. So we'll top that off. That's in there. Put that back. I haven't glued this in because it's going to be glued into this. Sorry, it's going to be glued into the pig snout at some point, but we're not going to worry about that. I'm just showing you how kind of the theory of it, how it all goes together. So that's that. It's definitely in where it should be. Just checking through there, and it is. It's up tight. That's good. Now let's go ahead and install the main gun mount. So it goes with the flat side, this side down, and it positions itself. And you line up. Basically, you've got to line up. I don't know if you can see that. There's a hole there. That hole there has to be lined into that. So we'll do that. I think what I'll do is I will put a little bit of thread locker. I'll probably put it on the thread of this rather than let me just get something to just wipe that top excess off of that, and we do the same this side. And we'll position this where it should be, flat side down. Let's see if I can do this in, like, trying to keep the camera on what we're trying to achieve. A little bit awkward, but hopefully you can see that. Just going to, so this part is threaded here, but that's the pin that goes inside. So this pin goes inside this hole. What I should have done is make sure it fits, and it does. So, nervous moment. That's alright, that's gone in quite well. Come around the other side. Do exactly the same thing there, just try and line that hole up. Sorry, I'm trying to do this so I can see, but also show you on the camera. There we go, there we go, right. That's in sort of hand tight. I'm going to give that now. I've got a tool here which you'll recognise as a chisel, but it's a blunt chisel. Every good DIY guy should have a blunt chisel in his toolbox because they are super useful. Snacking it off just a tad. Well, I wouldn't do this with a big screwdriver in case it slipped. So that's that. So that's it's elevated. And then when this is fixed, this is its slew. So it's going to be doing this. Sorry. So that's that. That's ready to go onto the glacier plate, I believe. So let's get that installed. I'll just go and get the glacier plate, and then we'll install this. Right, so I've zoomed out so that we can see the next stage of this build. So this slew mechanism will sit through this, obviously the glacier plate, but into this here, this way round. And what we've got to do is make sure, this is a cast piece, this, is make sure that it doesn't snag, and I can feel it's going to snag where it's been cast. So I'm going to just do a bit of filing on this, just to take off those sharp edges. You want this to be smooth operating inside of this. You don't want to get it, you don't want it snagging, because you get really sort of quite delicate servos that operate the slew mechanism up, down and left and right. And I'm worried that even though this is a beautifully machined sort of sphere, this being a cast piece could snag it. So just want to make sure that we've got no issues with snagging. So I can feel it a little bit more. Sorry, these are essential things to do, because once this is bolted into place, I don't want to be taking it off to do this, and I don't want, you know, further down the line, if the servo gets jammed because this is caught on the inside of this, it could break the servo. I'm going to do that. Just making it as smooth as possible. I'll just get a small round file, just half round file, just to smaller teeth, just makes that less, you know, smooths the surface off a bit more than the larger file. Probably a good time to go and make yourselves a cup of tea, or something a bit stronger. I'm almost done. Right, let's see how that works. Yeah, that's so much better. Right, okay, let's get this installed. So this obviously, it's a bit awkward, a lot of components to try and hold, and while you're assembling it. So I've come up with a bit of a Heath Robinson idea, which is a lump of 4x2 timber, and that's going to help me hold the glacier plate vertically, like so. And then I'm going to use a clamp, just open it up, sorry, and use a clamp on this. This could go horribly wrong, so I'm pretty sure that's going to work. Yeah, so now that's got that nice and firm and stable for me to work with. This is going to be bolted to the front of the glacier plate, and then this slew mechanism goes through the back. So it's got the bracket here, it's got an angle on it. You get two fixings that go through that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pop these in for now, the 25mm fixings, just holding it there. This will then go through that. There we go. There we go. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop two of the fixings into the top just to hold that in place. Trying to find the hole. Awkward. There we go. That's that one. This is just to hold everything in place loosely. Now pop these out. Put some thread locker on those. And wind that in. Won't tighten it off just yet. I'll take out, once I've got these in, I'll take those two out and put the thread locker on those as well. This is just a means for me to secure that. And I don't want to tighten these off just yet. There's two more fixings. Sorry, there's two more fixings here and here. That's feeling about right. Last one. I don't know how you do this as easily if it was actually on the tank itself. So I hope I'm doing it the right way. This makes sense to me anyway. I'm not sure how you'd be able to easily access this at its tilt with the motors involved and everything in the way. So now I'm going to go around and tighten all these up. Oh yeah, I've got to take these out, haven't I? Haven't put any thread locker on these. I'm also, I think I'm going to install all the servo mounts at the same time while I've got it in this position. I don't have the servos yet, but I have, Armortek have very kindly sent me, along with the two motors, all the servo mounts for the back of the gun. I think they kind of know that you kind of need to put it in ahead of doing anything else, so they do send that to you, which is great, because now, again, I'm just thinking, how do you get to all of this once it's in the tank on that angle with the motors in place? And I just think that it's going to be super difficult. So let's take that off and see what we've got. So that's it there. There's the movement. And the gun barrel will eventually, so that's the kind of range of movement you get. It's quite good actually. Obviously it's going to recoil, so that's nice and loose inside that sleeve, and that's it. Just checking the back. Just want to make sure that, I mean, I've filed it down a lot. It's still, it's not snagging. It's just rubbing. So I'm not too concerned about that. You probably wouldn't get that full range of movement with the servos anyway. But you know, that's pretty good. I'm happy with that. Right. So now I'm going to take a look at what else needs to be put onto the back of this ahead of the Glacis plate going on to the front of the tank. So I'll be back shortly.
1 minute 37 seconds later.
So after carefully considering installing all the servo mounts, which I can do, I've actually changed my mind again because I'm going to need the servos to put them in, because some of the angles just don't work. For instance, this one here will screw onto the back of the plate here like that. And then I will not be able to physically get the servo in, so the servo is going to have to go into this and then bolt it to this. So what I've decided to do is just to put the bush in today for the barrel, test the barrel fit, that it slides correctly through both bushes, and then loosely fit the Glacis plate onto the tank. And then what I'm going to do is I'll order all the servos that I'm going to need, and then when I'm waiting for those to turn up, I'm just going to crack on and do the roof section. So that'll be in the next video. So what I'll do now is we'll just carry on and do a little bit more work on this, and then we'll test fit it to the front of the tank. So we have a smaller bush here, which then Armortek asks you to glue into this the back of the gun mount here. I've had to actually rub this down, or using my bench sander to take a small amount of thickness off of this, because it just wasn't fitting in here. So you might find you might have to do the same sort of thing. What you don't want to do is force this in and then distort it so it doesn't run freely in the barrel. So for instance, this is the barrel. I'm going to just demonstrate here that this needs to run freely, because when you have the recoil system working on the gun, this needs to run really smoothly through, so you don't want this to be distorted. So it's a good advice, I think, just to rub this down. I probably had to take about 0.5 millimeter off the whole thickness all the way around. Didn't take long on my bench, sander, and now it's ready to be installed in the back of these. These are just little jobs you can do while you've got the glacier plate off the tank. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop that in like that, and then I'm going to just make sure that glue is coming out. I think it's time for another tube. Right. Actually, that's going to be awkward. So let's just put some around the top edge of that. Probably too much. So I'll just use my little mallet. In. What we're going to do is I've just got a little bit of overspill on that glue. I just want to clean that off. Just a bit of acetone, brilliant stuff. This just gets rid of that surplus amount of glue. Tell you what, don't have a small cut in your hand, because this will really sting. But brilliant for removing excess glue and the likes of that. So that's in there now. Again, all jobs, I just don't see how you could do this with the glacier plate in place. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to fit it just yet. I wanted to because it's got other parts, other mud guards and everything else that get attached to it. But I think while I'm waiting for the servos to turn up, I can just crack on with the roof and then be able to take this off. But you know, I want to see it when it's installed, see how it looks. So the only other thing I want to double check today is just put the lid back on the glue, is this. So this here, this screws on the end of the barrel, and this is what allows the recoil when you've got it all set up with all the full motion option packs. This allows it, this will be connected to a servo connector rod onto a servo, and this is what pulls the barrel back. But sometimes when you get these, because of the way these are machined, they don't screw in. I mean, that for instance there is not screwing in very well. So obviously sometimes if you want to transport your tank at some point in the future, sometimes it's quite handy to be able to unscrew the main barrel. It just takes up less room. So all I'm going to do with that is just got some dry lube. I'm just going to spray the thread of that and the internal thread of that, and then hopefully that will just help that already make, yeah, that's made a big difference. So that's now screwing in there as it should. So that's perfect. And what will happen is this will pass through. Just tip this down. This will pass through both bushes, and it will stop at that point there, at this bush. But what happens is when you fire the gun, it will retract that, giving you the recoil effect. So that is it. So that's as far as we're going to go for now. I'm probably just going to leave that screwed on that for now so I don't lose it. I'm going to take this off, and that is it as far as we're going to go today. So I'll just mount this onto the tank. I'll zoom out so you can probably, oh, zoom out, Tony. There we go. Put that piece of wood away. Turn the tank around a little bit. Hopefully you can see that. And we're going to try and pop this into position. Lock into that. I mean, that is more or less how it's going to be. So yeah, so that's it. So let's just make sure that that goes. It does. So that's the gun. Obviously, when it's recoiling, it's quite a large, quite a nice range. That. Not sure how much you're going to get with the servos, but it's quite nice. That operation, very smart, very clever. Right, so I'll just pack everything away and I'll do my final piece to camera. So that's it for today's session. Doesn't really seem like we've achieved a lot, but actually we have. So we can really start seeing the shape of this wonderful little Hetzer coming together. So we've got the top sides on, we've built up the gun mount and the slew mechanism for the front Glacis plate, and it's all functioning as it should do. And as you know, I really wanted to put the mounts on the back for the servos, but I'm going to wait until I actually have the servos and then install it. So I can't fix this off permanently at this stage. It's probably best if I don't, because it's got to really be kept quite loose until the roof is all completed. And once the roof's on, then hopefully by then I would have received the servos and we can install those, fix this off finally, and then start finishing off with the mud guards and then start doing some welding around here. I mean, the whole thing needs to be aligned properly anyway, so I've got a bit of work to do to that. So if you just joined me, welcome, and I hope you subscribe, because we've got a long way to go on this little build. And if you've liked this video, give me a thumbs up. Thanks for all your support, all your comments. It's amazing. I really enjoy reading them. I hope you continue to follow my build. For now, it's me, Tony, building another tank, and I can't wait for the next session. See you soon.